Hello. Thank you for joining us for another edition of Sree's Sunday New York Times Read Along. Our guest today is Liza Donnelly. She can often be found in The New Yorker through her cartoons. She also has a Substack. She will be talking to us about an exhibit she curated at the Society of Illustrators. 100 years of New Yorker cartoons. Our host, of course, is Sree Sreenivasan. My name is Neil Parekh. We are live on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, and our Digimentors website. Please like, comment, share, retweet, do all the things you do on social media so that people can find this very special show. We will be talking about several things today. We obviously will be focusing on our good friend Liza Donnelly, the work that she's been doing. She also has a documentary that she's been working on. We will also be looking at the 5 years of COVID. It's been 5 years since the world shut down. Some folks will say that we're still in COVID, that COVID is still happening. Some think of it as something that is in the past tense. But we will talk about how New York has changed since then. There's a special feature in the New York Times today. Later in the show, we'll say something at the top of the show as well. But toward the end of the show at 10 a.m., or actually when our regular show ends at 10 a.m., we will do an extra bit to pay tribute to our good friend and colleague Steve Taylor, who passed away from a heart attack just about 2 weeks ago this weekend. We will have Paula Kiger and Stefan Kaplan, two of our Digimentors colleagues, join us for that discussion. And as I mentioned earlier, we will also have this special section on COVID, designed by Jane Mitchell, edited by Susan Hopkins, with an essay by our good friend and former guest, Dan Barry. As always, we are have the show. We run the show every Sunday, 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. With daylight savings, it's a little bit different now for our friends in Europe and in India. 12:30 p.m. GMT, 6 p.m. in India. The show, of course, is produced by Digimentors, the consulting firm that Sree Sreenivasan started several years ago. I'm proud to be a vice president of events and communications. With that, let's bring on our host, Sree Sreenivasan. Sree.
Hi, Neil. Hello, everybody. Great to be with you. And we missed you last week. You were doing something really important. You were commemorating one of the milestone events in American history.
Yeah, it was an incredible honor. I was in Selma, Alabama, for the 60th anniversary of the Bloody Sunday March, the Selma to Montgomery March, where John Lewis was famously beaten to within an inch of his life. I was there for the John Lewis Foundation. We'll share some pictures later, just to give folks a sense of what that was like. But I missed last Sunday's show, and you and I did a show together the week before, but it's been a while since we've been in the studio together consistently. So it's good to see you again.
Yeah, great to have you back, and to have everyone who's watching us from around the world. Every Sunday we do this, so tell us where you're watching from. Tell us what's happening, or how you're spending your Sunday. Shashi's watching from Potomac, Maryland. Welcome, Shashi. We have Patricia watching as well from Miss Hugh Graham. Grace and greetings from New York. Jonathan's watching from New York. Liza's exhibition was great. There's also one at the New York Public Library, and the Times has an interesting article about the New Yorker this weekend. This is all part of the Centennial Celebrations of the New Yorker.
And we should point out that Jonathan is the one that reached out to us to encourage us to have Liza back on the show. She's been a guest several times. But Jonathan, thank you for thinking of us and making that suggestion. Our longtime producer, Paula Kiger, is watching from Tallahassee, and again, she will be joining us at 10 a.m. on screen, which she didn't do very often when she was producing the show, but she is coming on screen at 10 a.m. so we can share our thoughts about Steve Taylor. My mom is watching from Hastings-on-Hudson, and she says, sorry for the loss of our friend, Steve Taylor. Patricia says, welcome back, Liza. Ken Fisher is watching from Chicago, not Iowa. He's in Chicago visiting family. All nice hotels, more affordable on weekends. And he appreciates Liza. Eileen Taylor is watching from Philadelphia. Eileen is Steve's mom. So Eileen, thank you so much for joining us at the top of the show. We really appreciate it. And I can't tell you how meaningful it's been. I've had a chance to talk with Eileen and her husband, Pat, several times over the past week, Sree.
Eileen, my deepest condolences to you. Thank you for sharing Steve with us. We loved working with him and getting to know him. He's someone with so much energy, and it's hard to believe for us that he's gone. So for you, I just cannot fathom. We're sending you all our strength and love. Thank you for watching, and thank you for being with us. And everyone, at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, we'll be doing a special tribute to Steve. So everyone who's watching, who knows Steve, or if you didn't know him, come back, make sure you're watching past 10 o'clock. And if you know anyone who knows him, please pass that on as well. Thank you very much. I see Dan, our colleagues, watching from New Jersey, and Diane Stefani is watching from New Jersey as well. Patrick is watching
from a different device at home. Patrick and Eileen Taylor. Patrick is Steve's father. So thank you for both logging in individually, and more importantly, just so folks understand, we've been doing the show for 9 years, and now that when we move to streaming this to multiple platforms, unless people comment, we don't know that they're watching. So the fact that Patrick and Eileen took the time to comment from different devices is very significant. So thank you for that.
And Stefan will be with us as well. So great that Liza is once again. We all miss Steve dearly. His passing was a shock to us all. He was a gem of a human being, and it was all love, absolutely. And we will do that tribute to Steve at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. We see folks are watching. Carla is watching from Cape Coral, Florida. And
Carla is a friend of Steve's. Sorry, Steve. Sorry, I wanted to make sure. Carla is a friend of Steve's, and she had posted on his Facebook. This is one of the things that I think is really interesting about Facebook, and this is how we found out. And I found out about a friend of mine last year from high school who passed away suddenly as well. When people post and they tag the person who passed, their friends get the notice. So I had not been connected with Carla before. I didn't know Steve's parents before, but because of people tagging and then you see the different posts, that's how the news spreads, and that's how you can connect with people. We had a close friend of Steve's watched the show that I did on Thursday, Shining Light on Shadows. We did a tribute to Steve as well on that show, and one of his close friends, Aaron, watched that day, and his mom watched as well. So it shows how the world gets really small at times like this.
And of course, this is one of the great promises of Facebook and social media, was the good parts of connecting people, bringing them together. The sad part has been how that original mission has been ruined, and so many problems that still exist. But it's in moments like this that we see still the power of Facebook and everything it does. Our former guest and friend Arlene Schulman's watching from New York City, and Chandana is watching from Long Island. And she's saying, is it too late to wish people happy Holi? No, it's not. And in fact, Friday, there were several things going on. It was Pi Day, it was 3/14. It was Holi, which is an Indian holiday. Purim, which is a Jewish holiday. And then India Giving Day was also on Friday, and Einstein's birthday. So there was a lot going on that day. And Apollo's watching from Philadelphia as well. I have to say that I found out around 9 a.m. on last Monday, that he had passed. And then that afternoon, I was passing through Philly in the train, and if I had known how to find Eileen and Patrick, I would have come directly to your home and paid my respects and passed along my condolences. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We are talking about the news for the next hour and a half or so with our friend Liza Donnelly, and we'll bring her on in just a moment. A couple of things to show you. This is the COVID section, how COVID haunts us. 5 years later, the world has moved on. The sorrow is still lurking. This is a special section in print that we will have on our Digimentors website, digimentors.group. Go find it. You'll be able to download that later. So please grab that when you can. Just quickly looking at the front section of the paper, Adams' case is blueprint for courting a president. And after a charm offensive from City Hall, both politicians come out ahead. I want to say this is for courting this president. It wouldn't work with other presidents the way he has been behaving. And then here it says Beijing worries U.S. may force trade squeeze, fearing partners will have to pick a side. And then A Kingdom's Deadly Tale. The powerful profit off the lives of maids in Saudi Arabia is that story right there. And about that sword, the Subway Ninja explains this happened in 2022. A man was found brandishing a ninja sword, a samurai sword of some kind, in the subway, and now he is explaining. I've not read the story. I wanted to understand what was going on. And death and ruin from wildfires and tornadoes is the rest of that headline there on the front page. Thank you all for watching. We're now going to bring on Liza Donnelly to talk to us. Liza is a New Yorker cartoonist and good friend of the show. She's been on multiple times. She does incredible work in the New Yorker. She's an author. She has a very special exhibition celebrating and commemorating 100 years of the New Yorker. And there's also a film that celebrates women cartoonists that she is part of that's raising money right now. So we'll talk about all of that with our friend Liza Donnelly. Liza, welcome to the show.
Hi.
Welcome, Liza. I just want to remind folks that we're live on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram. Both my channel will also be live on Sree's channel in just a moment. You can also find us on our Digimentors website. So please, again, like, comment, share, retweet. You can share the Instagram live to your story. Or to let people know they can find it on @NeilParekh or @SreeNet on Instagram. Liza, so great to have you back on the show, and looking forward to hearing more about this great exhibition and the documentary as well. So much to talk about.
Thank you.
I'll leave you and Sree to the conversation.
Thank you, Liza. Naomi says, good morning from a misty Rhode Island. I love New Yorker cartoons. Great show to come. So no pressure, Liza. And it is here an absolutely foggy day. I can't see out my window in Midtown Manhattan. Tell us about your Sunday mornings.
Well, right now I'm in the Hudson Valley, so I spend my time here and in Manhattan 50-50. So it also is very, very foggy and gray out there, but it's getting warm, Sree. My Sundays are usually a work day. I mean, as cartoonists and freelancers, we work all the time. Trying to mix it in with some fun stuff. I mean, not that cartooning isn't fun, it is. But I want to say I'm so sorry about Steve. I think I met him once, and what a lovely guy. That's shocking. He was so young.
So young, 55, passed away of a heart attack. Very, very, very sad for his family and his friends around the world. Thank you, Liza.
Yeah.
And we have so much to talk about, including this very special cartoon exhibition that you've put together. I had the honor of being there at the opening, and it was a place full of the rock stars of the cartooning world, and to see you in your element, just being surrounded by friends and family, and just the love in that room was amazing. So tell us all about it.
Oh, well, yeah, that was a wonderful evening. Better than I'd hoped, and so nice to see you and Rupa there. like really nice to see you. Yeah, I mean, the cartoonists came out in droves that night. It was what, in January sometime, and we had it's held at the Society of Illustrators, which is a wonderful museum for illustration and cartoons on the Upper East Side, 63rd Street. Wonderful people. It's been there for 100 years. The association and the museum, and it's a small townhouse, and we had over 500 people over the course of the evening come and celebrate New Yorker cartoons. And I told Arabelle, the director, I said, people love New Yorker cartoons. What do you expect? So people came and they wanted to see it, and they wanted to see cartoonists and raise a glass to the New Yorker, which is 100 years old in February. And
yeah, I just want to show people I have in my hand the Centennial issue of the New Yorker, and by the way, our dog is just behind me.
Yeah.
She's in the corner. Tara says hi. You've met her. And this is the 100th issue that just came out last month.
Yeah.
And so this was part of the celebration. So how long does it take to put together an exhibition like that? How many cartoons did you have, and how many cartoonists were in the show?
I proposed the idea of the show to the New Yorker and the Society of Illustrators in the fall of 2023. So I love the history of this art form, and I wanted to do something to mark the 100th anniversary, because we found out from David Remnick, for some reason, they didn't want to do a commemorative book this year of cartoons, which shocked. I say we, Michael and I. My husband is also a cartoonist for the New Yorker, and he's also a historian of cartoons. And we were shocked. So I thought, I gotta try to do something. If nobody else is, I'll do it. So everybody said yes, and so I spent the year planning and looking for original art with collectors, and also I reached out to cartoonists for them to loan a piece to the show. And there are about 130 drawings in the show. I'm sorry. So the show was 2 floors, Sree, as you saw. And unfortunately, they had to take down the 3rd floor for another exhibit to come in. So now the show is more modern cartoons, I should say. So the 2nd floor, we decided to have cartoons from the present up back to 1970-ish. The original art on the 3rd floor was from 1925.
So everyone should look up the Society of Illustrators to find out information, and it's running through May 3rd. So if you're in New York over the next couple of months, please make your plans to come see this. And I know that we have some cartoons that we can show from your Substack. We should tell everybody to sign up for your Substack. Your Substack. It's called Seeing Things, but it's easy to find because it's just lizadonnelly.substack.com. And tell us how you use Substack and what you do with it.
Substack is great, Sree. For me, I think I've been on there about 3 years now. Is that possible? And it's a new platform, and people don't know it. You're on there, where you can publish your own newsletter. They call them newsletters, and whenever you want and whatever you want, and you connect with your readership. So when I first signed on and created Seeing Things, my fans came out of the woodwork and just started following me, and they also are paid subscribers. I don't have a paywall on my Substack, so it's all free. But people are generous, and they want to support creators like you and me, and it's been such heartwarming. And so I have this little community of people, and the only drawback for people who are not paid subscribers is they can't comment on my posts. That's the plus you get, and you also get a Zoom with me once a month on Substack. So that's a funny. Sometimes I share photographs, so that's a weird photograph to show. I just like taking pictures around Manhattan. If you click on it, people can see the rest of the picture. That's in the Bronx.
It's just the way that Substack works.
Yes.
The preview is
right.
very particular. The dimensions are particular. So everyone, please go to lizadonnelly.substack.com. If you can support, please do. Definitely do subscribe. It helps everyone who is doing these things on Substack. My Substack is sreenet.substack.com,
Mhm.
and I love recommending the work that Liza does. And so everyone, please go there and please follow.
Thank you.
And let's look at a couple of anything here that we can call out, so we can look at some of your cartoons as well.
Well, you can go and I Can't Find Good News. What's great about Substack, and I also do this on Medium. I started with Medium about 15 years ago. It's another platform similar to this, but not quite the same, where I can do my political cartoons, because there's really not many outlets for political cartoons anymore. And so I can draw something with the news, and I found that my followers, not that I'm writing and drawing with I mean, I am writing and drawing with my followers in mind, but what am I trying to say? I try to respond to what they might want to see and read. So I mix, and I also mix it up. So I write and draw about politics, because I've found that since the election, many of my followers want a little bit of news. They don't want me to go on and on about it, which I probably couldn't anyway. But they want to know what's happening. They don't want to look at the news. So they get it. They get my links to the New York Times or my links to the Guardian or whatever, and a little synopsis of what I saw in the news that day, and maybe a cartoon, maybe a political cartoon, maybe.
So the one you did up top is basically him. This is about all that's going on in Washington. This particular moment, I think, was also the Washington Post. Tell us how you draw Trump. I see the extra long tie, the extra long coat. For a very, very, very rich man, he dresses very poorly with ill-fitting clothes. So you capture that, and then how do you do his hair? And it seems a little longer than it's already. I mean, it's a mess up there.
It's
but
exaggerated.
Yeah. So
I've been drawing. Sorry.
No, so talk about how you.
No, I've been drawing him for, as you know, for 10 years now. So his hair. This is how I draw his hair. It's just this big circle on top of his head, and it's exaggerated, and that's at least in the 10 years ago, that was the most noticeable thing about him. Also his size. He's a big man, and back 10 years ago his hair was orange, but have you noticed, Sree? It's been changing color. So his hair is not really orange anymore. So I try to, unfortunately, that was a nice device to have orange hair, but can't, I'm a cartoonist. I could do whatever. I could give him blue hair if I wanted, but it wouldn't make sense. But so I try to mimic the color of his hair now, which is basically gray and yellow. But the tie is also a signature thing and the long black coat. For a while, many of my followers remember this. When he first came on the scene 10 years ago, I put him in short pants, like black shorts, because he was like a bully. I saw him as a schoolyard bully. So I did that for a long time. But now he's much more than a bully. He's
One of the things I love talking to you about is as you said, the history of the art form and how you think about it. So we want to encourage people to ask questions. Here's your chance to ask a New Yorker cartoonist anything you like. My question to start us off is, what is the difference between caricature and cartoons, and how do you think about that difference? Is there a difference, etc.?
Yeah, there is. Those words have meaning to us in this little world. Caricatures are what you just what you just put on the screen. Obviously, it's a drawing of a public figure that's exaggerated. That's a caricature. A political cartoon, or sometimes called editorial cartoon, that's what that is. It's an opinion. It's an opinion in drawing form. And a cartoon is, like the New Yorker cartoon, is a standalone drawing with an idea, political or not. I've done some political cartoons for the New Yorker over the years too, which are a little bit milder than a newspaper editorial cartoon. They're more like you're looking at politics through the lens of people, not so much going after political ideas or individual leaders. And then so that's a cartoon, and illustration is when illustration. Yeah, that's a cartoon by Victoria Roberts, a good friend of mine.
Yeah, I'm just trying to read what it says. So this is a dog and a frog talking, and the frog says, "It's never been ribbit any more than it has been Bow Wow, and so that's that little
That's a
cartoon.
typical classic New Yorker cartoon where it says more than just what you see there. It says a whole lot about communication between people, right?
And there'll be people who, because we have audience around the world who've never seen the New Yorker magazine.
That's true.
And so they have to understand that kind of cartoon could be in the middle of a very serious story about all kinds of topics, and that's one of the things. So I know people who just look through the cartoons first and then may never get to the articles. They just flip through the cartoons. So cartooning is really important to the New Yorker. Talk about that, please, a little bit.
Yeah. Well, back in 1925, when they founded the New Yorker, it was founded by Harold Ross and Jane Grant. They happened to be married, and they wanted a humor weekly for New York City. That's how it started. So illustration and cartoons were integral in the beginning. And then it as we know, it sort of, the New Yorker became more than just a humor weekly. It's much, much more. And I discovered the New Yorker in my youth because my parents had it around the house. I was drawing when I was little and set my sights on the New Yorker. And what I grew to like about the cartoons of the New Yorker, and now I know how it works. I've been doing it for 46 years, Sree, is the cartoons are like the artist's point of view. They're not, and often they're funny, and often they're jokes, but they're never assigned. They don't assign us to do a drawing. We come up with these things weekly, and so that's what I learned about New Yorker cartoons. That they're like little pieces of art in a way, not highbrow art by any means, but little viewpoints of the world from one person, and hopefully they'll make us laugh. But it's been like that since 1925. The art form has sort of changed over time. Different people come and go. Different editors have different different tastes. So it's always black and white pretty much. There have been periods of color cartoons, but didn't stick. That's kind of the signature black and white and gray is a New Yorker cartoon.
And so basically you're pitching, and they have kind of right of first refusal. What happens to the rejected cartoons?
Well, a lot of them are in boxes in my studio, but now they're on my computer, and I recycle them on Substack, which is wonderful. And my viewers, I think they really appreciate seeing the cartoons that don't get bought by the New Yorker, and I really appreciate them having that audience, because up until Substack and Medium, I really didn't have any place to put them, because there were other magazines in the 70s, sorry, in the 80s that ran cartoons, but really there's no place else now.
And so I've seen this book called The Rejection Collection, which is a collection of rejected cartoons from the New Yorker. And there they say people submit 10 ideas, yielding 500 cartoons for no more than 20 spots in the magazine. That's that percentage. Doge would be very upset with that efficiency percentage.
I think we're all a little crazy, Sree, that we do this. I think it's an obsession. And the thing is with that kind of system, which has been like that since the beginning, as far as we know, it forces the artist to draw a lot and refine your ideas. So hopefully you'll get better, and you'll draw what you think is funny or what you think is worthwhile or important. So it's not really, you're not supposed to draw to the New Yorker necessarily, although you can't help but think about it.
and then have you ever had a cartoon that was rejected first and then you retooled it and was used?
Yeah. Okay. Sometimes the caption, you just change a few words, or you move the words around. Change the well, it's a long story. I don't know if you want to hear it.
We'll hear the quick version of it now that you've teased it.
Well, okay. So I once submitted a drawing called, it was a woman talking to her mother. It was slightly political. And she's saying, what did you do in the war on women, mommy? And that was like probably 8 years ago that phrase war on women was being used in the news. That's what I do. I take things out of the news sometimes and put them in a drawing. They didn't buy it. I submitted it several times. They still didn't buy it. So I put it on the internet. And it got a lot of nice attention on the internet. And then a couple of years later, I thought, well, you're not going to redraw that and make it daddy, what did you do in the war on women, daddy?
Mhm.
And Bob Menkoff said, the cartoon editor at the time, said, we'd like to buy this. And I said, great, wonderful. So they wanted to buy the one with the man and not with the woman. It has a slight different meaning
Yes, of
with
course.
gender change. And then they had the fact checkers, the famous fact checkers at the New Yorker. They look online to see if there's anything similar to what they about
So
to
they
buy.
fact check the cartoons, not the fact part, but the
Cartoons. Yeah,
yeah,
they try the best they can to see if there's anything that's similar out there. And they found my older cartoon with the mommy, and then withdrew the offer of a sale. So they said, sorry, we can't buy this.
Oh no! So it didn't run. So the
It
daddy
didn't
one
run.
also didn't
No,
run. Oh my
no, it
God!
didn't run.
Oh wow!
So
Okay, the fact checkers strike again, folks. That's Liza Donnelly. I'm Sree Sreenivasan, and we are here at the New York Times Read Along, where we're talking a little bit about the New Yorker and Liza's amazing, drawn from the New Yorker Centennial Celebration cartoon exhibition at the Society of Illustrators in New York. So if you know anyone in New York City, or you can get to New York before May 3rd, you absolutely want to go and see this. 2 floors of amazing cartoons from the New Yorker and illustrations as well. And so don't miss this. If you get a chance, please go and see it. We can see a little bit of the exhibition here. Here's the title page or the title
beginning.
yeah, the beginning of the exhibition. And so you have a little walkthrough here that we're going to watch. So let's
Let me just say something, Sree,
yeah.
about this walkthrough, is that a lot of what I do online now is I learned from you over the years, like how, being playful and learning how to use social media and video and, explore stuff. Just jump in with both feet and try stuff out. So that's what I do now. And I tip my hat to you.
Oh, no, thank you. And Steve Taylor, our friend who we'll be paying tribute to at 10 a.m. Eastern, he passed away this past week at the age of 55. One of the biggest compliments he gave me was that he said he was going to try the Facebook Live because he had been inspired by me. And I went and found his first Facebook Live that he did as a result. And this idea that we can all learn from each other was something in Steve's personality, and I know you do that as well. And I've learned from you how to think about the digital world and reinventing yourself, which you've done brilliantly. So as we're watching this, just talk through what we're looking at.
So that's the first cover of the New Yorker, very much like what you just had. Yep.
Yeah,
That
they put
was
100
drawn,
up there. Yeah, exactly.
Nobody really knows where that character came from. That's so
Eustace
iconic.
Tilly, yeah.
Yeah. That's the first cartoon of the first issue by Al Free. Please keep the subway clean, and the man is wiping the window. It's just a simple little drawing, but I love it. I mean, it was very New York focused back in the 20s. It was supposed to be for the urban elite. Harold and Jane wanted to have a humor magazine for the urban elite, and they succeeded. It was rocky at the beginning. It almost failed in the first 3 months, but they stuck with it. And they were funded by the Fleischman family, the yeast fame.
Oh, yeah.
Ralph Fleischman was their major backer in those early days. There's a big James Thurber, which he was and is still my favorite cartoonist from the New Yorker. He started as a humor writer. He wrote Walter Mitty, a famous know Walter Mitty short story. Seal in the all right. The caption is all right, have it your way. You heard a seal bark. It's just bizarre. It's a bizarre drawing, and it's funny, and it's about marriage. It's about relationships.
And you've done a whole book of cartooning and cartooning about
marriage.
Yes,
Books and Marriage was a book I did with my husband.
Yeah.
But
who
James,
I got to finally meet. You are a world traveler. You're always on the road, drawing the Oscars and all kinds of great stuff. But he stays closer to home.
Yes, he'd rather be home drawing in the living room. He draws all the time. But he started like in 1978, I think, or 77, and I started in 1979 at the New Yorker.
Michael Maslin is his name for folks who.
And he has a Substack. Sree, if anybody is interested in New Yorker cartoons, and I know many people are, they can follow Michael on Substack. you can go Michael Maslin at Substack, or Inkspill is the name of it. And he writes about every day. I write every day as well. He writes about New Yorker cartoons, past and present. So it's a really fun little Substack.
Cool. So everyone, please check that out. And what we're looking at is a walkthrough of this amazing cartoon exhibition at the Society of Illustrators in New York City. And it's about the centennial of the New Yorkers, part of the celebrations. There's other things going on, including an exhibition at the New York Public Library. So everyone, please check this out. Drawn from the New Yorker, a centennial celebration. And let's just see who else is watching. We have comments coming in, questions coming in. So I want to grab those in just a second. Doug Levy's watching from Northern California. He gets up at 5:30 a.m. in California. Chris Gorman's watching from New York. Hi, Chris. Thank you for always supporting what we're doing. Deborah is watching from Fort Lauderdale. My husband's family arrived to Florida from Connecticut 100 years ago in 1925. His mom, the oldest of three girls, was 8 years old. Love your cartoons, Liza, says
Thank you.
Deb. So that's great. Pradnya watching from Silver Spring. Pradnya did a great job on the show that Neil hosts called Shining Light on Shadows, talking about how to survive and thrive when all this news is going on in your workspace, in your office life. Jonathan says, I was there for opening night. I think the crowd easily exceeded the maximum number recommended by the fire department.
I know.
This is something that New Yorkers know, that we've all been at events where the fire department comes in and actually the fire marshal will shut down an event. It didn't happen, but it could have.
Yes.
Yeah.
We were worried about the building collapsing.
Oh my God.
After the fact. Nobody said anything to me during the evening, but. And I want to say also, David Remnick showed up. He gave a little talk.
Yeah.
He's very honored by that. Yeah.
Yeah. David's the editor-in-chief of the New Yorker. Patricia said, did Liza ever consider turning her cartoons into NFTs, similar to Gary Vaynerchuk? So these are, for those watching, NFTs are kind of digital art that's considered kind of an asset now by some people. Others are very dismissive. Where do you stand on this?
I sort of stopped paying attention, and when it first started becoming a thing, I was considering it, but I've lost track of really what's going on with that now. I don't know.
The true believers still believe. That's the amazing thing. Okay. Pradnya is doing something I'd like everybody to do, which is tag a friend. Right now, just tag a friend. They can watch live or later on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, our website, digimentors.group. And a reminder that if you go to digimentors.group, you will find on the Liza episode a copy of this PDF, How COVID Haunts Us. This is sent to us by our friend Wayne Camadoy, a designer and former guest on this show as well. What's it like working with another one of my favorite cartoonists, Roz Chast, says Naomi.
She's an old friend. We met back in 1978 or so, and 79. Both lived on the Upper West Side in Manhattan, a couple blocks from each other. She's an old dear friend, and she's very much as you might expect. Have you met her, Sree?
Yes, I have, and she was there that night, and it was great. I saw you speak at the night. Both of you speak at the 92nd Street Y about cartooning, and it was very inspirational. Everybody, look for Roz's cartoons. Look for Liza. Look for Michael. There's just so much good stuff that you can find. And the New Yorker shares all or most of its cartoons online, and on the various social media platforms and the app. You can just kind of scroll through the cartoons and not have to read anything else if you don't want to. So they have that. Pradnya says, the cartoons have always been the thing I share the most, even cutting them out and mailing them to people before the advent of social media.
Speaking of that, my mother used to cut out the little spot drawings in the magazine. They're not cartoons, they're little sketches. If people know the magazine, they'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
She used to cut those out and save them for me. But yeah, the cartoons, that's a way we connect with each other, right?
Yep. And she's mentioning the cartoon contest, and they basically have one you can enter, a previous winner, and the finalists is how they do this. But an indication of how much games have become so much a big part of the industry. This used to be the back page of the New Yorker,
Right.
and now it's the crossword puzzle.
Mhm.
So that's kind of interesting. And of course, we've seen that with the New York Times as well, spending so much energy and time on crossword puzzles and other games.
What is that about, Sree? Why do you think that's happening?
I think people are looking for easy games that they can finish, and especially the New York Times games are so small, most of them, that you have a sense of accomplishment. I often joke that about a friend in college. I went to college in New Delhi, and there was no hot water in the showers, and so he'd get up every morning and have a cold shower, and we'd hear him kind of almost screaming in the showers, and we say, "Why are you doing that?" And he said he had a great sense of accomplishment the first thing in the morning. So if you get out your New York Times games and you play a couple of them, you feel like you've accomplished something. So that's the comparison I make to that. Neil.
Sree, I just wanted to jump in and make sure that we say hi to folks watching on Instagram. Several comments coming. I'm going to turn this way. I hate looking off camera, but to read on my second computer. Laura Silverman, in particular, it was said earlier, it's a great exhibit of Barbara Sherman's the work. There's a great exhibit of Barbara Sherman's right now at the Brandywine Museum, 1920s New Yorker cartoons.
Yeah.
And she also wanted to echo Liza's comment from earlier on how much she learned from Sree. It transformed her approach to social media.
Thank you.
I will. I'll give a little bit of a preview in terms of the when we talk about Steve Taylor a little bit later. I actually interviewed Laura Silverman in Philadelphia for the first time, and Steve was there just to visit, and that's the first time I met him in person. It was definitely a great experience. So Laura, thank you for being part of that experience for us. We'll share more later in the show.
Thank you. And folks, we'll be getting to the paper in just a few minutes. We're talking to Liza. We want to talk to her about the documentary that's coming out. But I wanted to get to this comment from Deborah, who's talking about a funny Seinfeld episode where they're trying to understand a caption in a New York Times cartoon. And that sometimes happens where I'm looking at saying, what is the joke here exactly? And I'm sure you've seen that Seinfeld clip. Do you ever get confused by a cartoon you see in the New York?
Oh, and of course. Yeah, no, and it's just one of those things you get used to, that sometimes you're not going to understand everything that another artist is putting out there. So also, I want to say about that Seinfeld episode, that was written by a New Yorker cartoonist.
Wow.
Bruce Kaplan. He signs his cartoons BEK, and they're very stylized black and white drawings. But he wrote that episode. It's very funny. Yeah.
But Patricia says, interesting that the fact checkers didn't allow a cartoon by you with slightly different wording, even though you were the cartoonist.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you can't really put your own work out there if they want to buy something, you can't publish it until they've published it first.
Got it. And Naomi says this is a not to miss exhibit at the Society of Illustrators, and Pradnya is going next time on a trip to New York, so is going to see that. And Pradnya says the cartoon dogs are the best, and in fact, probably the most famous cartoon of all time in the New Yorker is one dog talking to another and saying, on the internet, you don't know you're a dog. No one knows you're a dog.
Right.
I think that competes with that other. It's a cover of New York dominating, kind of the East Coast or New York City bias of the world. I think that's something that we have seen as well. And Jonathan says, love that giant Thurber drawing. And most people associate James Thurber as a writer, but he was also a cartoonist. And Patricia says that you have an awesome newsletter. Everyone, please go and find it. Yeah.
I try to do different things on my newsletter. I do news, but I also do live drawing out in the world. Like I'll draw a person I see waiting for the subway. Sometimes I draw on my phone, Sree. It's just all about experimenting.
And iPad, you do really great work with
iPad,
your iPad and the
then
Apple
sometimes
Pencil.
Yeah, sometimes just New Yorker cartoons, or so I mix it up because that's what life is all about, right?
And this is a funny one of your cartoons
Mhm.
where it says, "I hear their marriage is in trouble, but they're having a good time." I wanted
Mhm.
to just read out this comment about Scroll. This says, "Hey Team Scroll, thanks for the great work you've been doing. World-class journalism. Keep up the good work." So that's great
Mhm.
to see
Mhm.
that. And we're on their channels. Then they have lots and lots of followers. John Lee, who's been a guest on our show, it's great to see our
Hi,
two-time
John.
Irish 2 podcast guest on Sree TV.
Happy Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody! Tomorrow, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Mhm.
You're very proud of your Irish
Yes.
connections there. So are you both sides of your family are Irish?
No.
Okay.
So English and Irish. So it's
Okay.
only a little bit Irish, but I love Ireland. I've been there a few times.
Yeah.
And you're a great supporter of the Irish
Yes,
network.
I am, but I've not. I've only been to the airport in Dublin. I've not seen more than that. Ash Basu says, "Delighted to see Liza
Gosh, hi,
on
Ash.
this
Mhm.
on the show, and we're going to see some of your how you do your work. And this is the documentary. Let's actually talk about that a little bit there. So you have a documentary that you're working on. So talk about
Yes.
that, and then we'll play about a minute from that, and then move to the newspaper. So.
Okay.
You, so go ahead.
Um, this is a reel that's a sample of the thing, the documentary. It's going to be a short. It's going to come out this year. It's called Women Laughing, and it's based on roughly based on my book Very Funny Ladies, which is a history of the women cartoonists of the magazine. There were women there in 1925, believe it or not, and now, but they've always been few in number for a lot of reasons. I explore that in my book, but I also explore it in the documentary. But I also, in the documentary, I highlight 5 women cartoonists of various ages and backgrounds, and it's a short snapshot of what it's like to be a woman cartoonist, and I'm excited to do it. I had to over the pandemic. I took classes and I explored how you make a documentary. I talked to any documentarian who would talk to me, and there turns out they're very friendly people, very helpful, kind, generous, and
Unless they're on deadline, then they're
right.
almost impossible to get. But
But
between
I think
movies, they're great. Yeah.
most of them don't do it for the money. That's one thing I think I've learned is they're similar to cartoonists that way. And I have a great team now. I'm directing it with another woman, Kathy Hughes, who's an experienced director. She's worked with Bill Moyers for 30 years. And a producer, Judith Mizraki, who's a wonderful producer. She did the Martha Mitchell Effect and The Booksellers, if you've seen those documentaries. And yeah, so
So
we're making it
let's
happen.
listen. We'll turn up the volume and we'll
Maybe
play a
you want
little
to
bit of
fast
it.
forward through me. It starts
Okay.
with me, but
Okay.
get to see some
Tell
of
us
the other
where to
people.
stop. He'll scrub through. Tell us where.
Just to see more than just me.
Okay.
I mean, I start the documentary. It's not about me. It's about women.
Right.
But I'm the guide through it.
So yeah.
Okay.
So okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's
Now,
listen to a little bit. Neil, do you want to just hit play and let's listen? Let's see if the sound comes through.
but you'll see Roz in here too. If you want to fast forward, you can see Roz.
And it's at womenlaughingfilm.com. We'll see if we can get that audio working. Womenlaughingfilm.com. How can people help you complete this film?
Oh, thank you, Sree. Well, we still need some money. We have a rough cut now, and we're doing finishing work on that, editing a few things, doing graphic design. The cartoons will not be animated in a big way, but they're slightly animated. And we need more money for the finishing costs, which includes color correction and finishing the sound and the music. So if anybody wants to give us money, we'd be happy to take your money. And if you go to womenlaughingfilm.com, there's a page where you can donate.
I
And
see
we
that.
really,
And
really appreciate it.
everybody please donate. Please support
Thank
womenlaughingfilm.com.
you,
And if we
Sree.
can get that to come back, we will. Just want to read some of the comments. Patricia says, cartoons are a great way to describe thought space when words may sometimes be lacking. Ken says, I love the smell and mood setting of the New Yorker. Therefore, I must return to a physical subscription. That's great. You tell David we made a sale. Ellen says, love her cartoons. Jayanti's watching after a long time. Pradnya says, after 20 plus years with my husband, I knew we were really committed when we switched our subscription to be under his name. And that sounds like a cartoon from the New Yorker.
Yeah, right.
And good morning from Fort Lauderdale, Dr. Tachi, who was fabulous on the show in January. Thank you for watching. If you join Slated, there are film investors there. So it's some kind of platform. Maybe you
I know Slated, yeah.
Yeah, slated.com. And Jayanti's watching at 6:45 in the evening in Gujarat, in India. So thank you for watching from there. So that's great. So it's womenlaughingfilm.com, womenlaughingfilm.com. So we're going to hit play and listen to a little bit of this. Yep.
Cartoons are my livelihood, but also my passion. I love how humor challenges us to think differently. That's why I've long been fascinated by how women cartoonists see the world. The New Yorker was founded in 1925 by a man and a woman. And there were a handful of women drawing cartoons for the magazine in the 20s, and then a few more in the 30s. And some of them were very successful and popular in their time. There was a spirit of a little bit of openness for women. If you want to fast forward a little bit, you can see and then the Depression hit. Some of the modern women, because it's really more about the modern women. Let's see. Where is it? To find it. It's more at the end, I guess. There we go. There's Roz and me going to Central Park.
I can see the production values are very high.
You ever come here on your own? Like
physical.
Oh, all the time.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
My friend Roz Chast started around the same time I did.
Take some pictures.
You ever draw when you're out here?
I have. When I first started to submit to the New Yorker, my cartoons, the boxes were very, 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 very small. And I drew with a very, very, very tiny rapidograph. My reasoning behind this was that I thought if I just took up a very little space, nobody would get mad at me. I'll just be really quiet. You won't even know I'm here.
Those early days were so much fun. You'd come to the magazine, drop off your cartoons, and then we'd all go out to lunch.
We would make each other laugh. It was a lot of fun.
The older crowd was mostly older white men, pretty much all men.
Kind of a sausage party.
Anyway, but over time, as more women joined our ranks, things started changing. Women now are drawing much more specifically about women's experiences.
Women get like teased a lot for like always going to the bathroom together. And
Neil,
I
go
was
ahead.
thinking like,
So I was just going to ask, Liza, you were mentioning it earlier. You're still finishing the documentary, right? This is just a 5-minute teaser.
This is a pitch reel. This is what they call pitch reel, where we used it. It was made about a year ago, and we take it out to tell people about our idea and get funding that way. So
got it.
Mm-hmm.
And what's you're hoping to finish it by later in the year?
We're yes, by spring. So we're almost in spring. So probably June or July.
Great.
People, I will write about it on my Substack, and I'll of course promote it online. Also, the film has its own Instagram.
Oh.
Women Laughing, and it's yeah.
And this is the website we're looking at, womenlaughingfilm.com, with a nice big donate page. So we definitely encourage people to support Liza's film.
Thank you. It's been really fascinating and fun to do.
Liza, talk a little bit about the name. It's women laughing, but also women making people laugh through their drawing. So talk about that, because your book is very clear, right? Very funny ladies, but the women being funny rather than laughing. So talk about that a little bit.
Nobody's ever asked me to talk about the title. Interesting, Sree. So my co-director thought of it about a little under a year ago, because I don't think I really wanted it to be called Very Funny Ladies. That's too on the nose in a way. And Women Laughing is sort of a takeoff of a film that came out a couple of years ago called Women Talking. I don't know if you saw that. I cannot remember the name of the director at the moment, but I know Frances McDormand was a producer and was in the movie. And it was about women talking, and I won't even go into it, but it was about women's ideas, women talking, and it was
based on a novel by Miriam Toews, and it's by Sarah Polley.
Right, great, yeah. Which I read the book, and it's, saying women laughing is evokes a couple of things. Either it's a film about women laughing, or it's a film about women having the last word laughing. In that we're now.
Sure.
We're now equal at the New Yorker anyway in terms of cartoons. There's 50-50. That only happened in 2017 when one issue of the New Yorker had more women cartoonists than men. That was the first time. So it's now equal. And thanks to David Remnick and Emma Allen for making a concerted. Emma is the cartoon editor, for making an effort to look for diversity not only in gender but also in race. There's more people of color at the New Yorker now, and there's people, transgender people. So it's much more diverse. The cartoons are representing people's lives. One issue, the New Yorker had more women cartoonists than men. That was the first time.
I just brought in a comment
it's
from
now equal.
Instagram.
And thanks to David
Diane
Remnick and Emma Allen,
who's watching on multiple channels.
Emma is the cartoon editor.
Thrilled to already have donated.
Thank you, Diane. Really appreciate it. Yeah, no, it's like, so the idea is that these are, and I said it earlier, the cartoons for the New Yorker are not always just a joke. They represent people's lives. Our experience, my experience, this cartoonist experience, what they see in the world, how they feel about the world. And now women are drawing about their experiences, when before, when I started, it was almost all men. There were 4 of us, women. And now we're sharing our experience and our humor, and we're making fun of people. And humor's powerful, as you know. I don't want to use it to hurt people. I don't want to use it to denigrate people, but I want to use it to communicate and tell people about our lives. So in the film, we have me and Roz. Oh gosh.
It's okay. Don't worry.
Anyway, there's a diverse group of people in the film, so it's diversity. Yeah.
Sure. It's just want to point out, it's womenlaughingfilm.com, womenlaughingfilm.com, and just want to thank Deborah, who's sharing the links and talking about this. Deborah was a guest on our show talking about her National Geographic trip to Antarctica, and it was really fun to learn. And she says donating today to both, so that's great.
Thank you.
Everybody, please check that out. And one other thing I would say about the way you're building out the work you're doing, and your idea about the way to think about humor is so important, because Elon Musk is using humor as a weapon to laugh at people, to hurt people, and he also says comedy's back as if it was ever gone. It's been
he said that?
Been here. Yeah, that's his whole point, that you're not allowed to laugh or make fun of. I mean, Michael Che on Saturday Night Live had a great line right when the announcement came that Musk was trying to buy Twitter. He said, $44 billion. That's how much, people like Musk want to say the N-word because they think it's funny to say the N-word or anything else like that. So he's been so cruel, in part using comedy. But I say you have to laugh, because otherwise you'll cry all day. There's so much pain in the world right now, and we want to get to the news. So I just want to remind everybody, check out Liza on Substack, LizaDonnelly.substack.com. You can support her work there, and this film, womenlaughingfilm.com. You can support
you,
the
Sree.
very important work that she's doing. So what we're now going to do is switch to reading the paper. We're about 30 minutes with
Okay.
Liza, and I will look at the newspaper and you'll jump in where you have something you'd like to point out or say or add. And this is going to be fun to hear your take on everything that's going on. So here is the front page. Is Adams' case is a blueprint for courting a president. After a charm offensive from City Hall, both politicians come out ahead, and this is about how to deal with Donald Trump. A lot of praise definitely helps. Beijing worries U.S. may force trade squeeze, fearing partners will have to pick a side. And a kingdom's deadly trade, the powerful profit off the lives of maids in the Middle East, a very powerful photograph here. And death and ruin from wildfires and tornadoes is the headline on this piece here. And about that sword, the Subway Ninja explains. So I haven't read the story yet. I want to find out what is the explanation for everything that that happened to him and what was the result of that story. Let's take a look at the New York Times Magazine. Well, Neil and I had fun one year. We went to the Times Magazine and read the magazine on a Wednesday. We did a read along on a Wednesday with Jake Silverstein, the editor of the magazine, which was a lot of fun. That's when they get the magazine at the New York Times headquarters. So this is the Extreme Voyages issue. When you tell me what you see what you feel when you see this, someone I guess is going ice swimming or whatever this is. Ice diving? I don't know what this is.
Frightening. Frightening.
Yeah.
I mean, I like adventure. But that's going too far.
My sister-in-law is climbing to base camp at Everest. Are you a hiker? Would you do things like that?
No, I was a hiker in my early days, but and I did a lot of hiking in Wyoming, but not anymore. Well, I love walking in New York City. That's possibly
that's your adventure.
Yeah.
Here is so all these stories in here. So a lot of ads, obviously, for adventure travel when you do an issue like this. How Netflix ends up turning world literature into just more Netflix. So this is a piece about by Robert Robson about the New Yorker, about Netflix. The miniseries resembles other things on Netflix more than it resembles anything in Marquez, which is they have a formula when they make these Netflix films. So that's an interesting take on this. Lady Gaga feels. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
There was an article yesterday in the Times online about a fashion expert tells you what to wear for travel, and that's the kind of thing a New Yorker cartoonist would pick up on. It's like,
yeah, for sure.
Like, what? You have to have a fashion expert to tell you what to wear on the airplane? I guess so.
Well, remember there was a time when people would dress up for flights.
That's right. I remember those days. Yeah.
Lady Gaga feels like herself again, and she has an album out called Mayhem. I haven't listened to it, but I know that she's been promoting it a lot. She was the musical guest and host on SNL last week. Do you still watch SNL?
I don't stay up to watch it, but I do pay attention to the clips almost every week. Yeah, as it always has been. It's sort of a pulse of the culture. It still is. I think what's going on and who's popular and who's not.
So here is a letter of recommendation in the Times. The organ. Nowadays, encountering the organ feels like discover something from a world that has been lost. The piano obviously is more popular than the organ, and so that's here. And here is Wirecutter's life hacks. I have a bazillion unread emails, and it's stressing me out. So they're suggesting declaring email bankruptcy. That's something that people have done. They just say, you'll start afresh when you do that. Tell me about cooking. Here's the eat column. Frozen in time, a bag of freezer peas. He's a pantry superstar and the heart of the springy soup. So tell me about you and cooking.
Oh, cooking. Well, I'm a pretty good cook, but it's not a pastime for me. It's just a need to do. But I did a lot of cooking cartoons in the 80s. It's a great subject for humor, people's obsessions. I think for the New Yorker, I did 3 different cartoons about risotto, because risotto, was new to Americans in the 80s. Radicchio is another word that it's a funny word, and it's a funny concept.
Arugula. These are all things that now we
Mhm.
take for granted that at one time
Right.
were new, right? So
Yep. Yep.
these are more extreme adventures here inside the New York Times magazine.
Wow.
Let's see, diving for ancient bones in minus 63-degree weather. So okay,
Well,
so at least it was with a purpose. It wasn't just kind of something fun. Diving for ancient bones, I guess.
do
Minus
you
60.
people
Yeah.
take ice baths now? Do you
Yeah.
subscribe to that, Sri?
Oh no, not me. But I know in Scandinavia when I was there, it's something that people recommend doing, and
Mhm.
absolutely no interest. I did go to Machu Picchu. I climbed a non-hiking family went hiking in Machu Picchu, and that was the last vertical holiday that I'm ever taking. I want to be flat on a beach for the rest of my life. So look at this. They're searching for bones, and very interesting. The photographs are so good. Talk about photographs in the New Yorker. They
Mm.
sometimes have images. When did that come in, and do you feel it's competing with the drawings
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
illustrations?
Mhm. Yeah, that came in, I believe, in the 90s, with Tina Brown was the senior editor in that time period, and she changed a lot at the magazine. She brought in photography, and she brought in more illustration. Up until that point, the illustration, which is not a cartoon with a humor or idea, it's just a little drawing. Now you see full page illustrations that go with articles, um, and I'm jealous. I want it to be all about the cartoons, but they have. I mean, I think she was brought in to supposedly revive the magazine and get it to be sell more issues. And I think she was successful. And she liked my work, so I can't hold too much hope against her.
Let's see. Jonathan says, walking in New York is always an adventure.
Mhm,
Laura says, walking in New York City, that's my kind of hiking too.
mhm.
Uh, and then Jonathan says, you're not a ninja if you can be identified as a ninja. And Ron Thomas is watching from Dubai. Ron is former guest, always supportive and watching. So thank you. And Deborah supported my Substack as well, StreetNet.substack. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Ellen says, New York City is adventurous, so many interesting neighborhoods. Uh, to travel at an early age, diverse New York is terrific.
Yeah.
It was a moment in Harry Met Sally that lives rent-free in my head. I'll have that grilled radicchio. And diving for bones, that's something I do routinely. He's just joking. In 20 minutes, folks, we'll be doing a tribute to our friend Steve Taylor. Please stay past our conversation, our wonderful conversation here with Liza, so you can hear about this great man who passed away at just 55. The Sunday business cover is DEI being shredded, as you can see, and diversity goals. What diversity goals? Corporate America has been quietly getting rid of any mention of diversity, equity, and inclusion in annual filings, just kind of caving to. And just a reminder to everyone that when people say the word mandate, it's just not true. He won by less than 50%. He won less than 50% of the vote. Won by a margin of 1.5%. One of the smallest margins of victory in the history of the United States. And if you look at the actual number of people who voted, he won about 30% of the population. So that's
Mhm.
what we're talking about. And that victory has been translated and claimed as a mandate to do enormous damage around the country and now around the world as well. And no one, I think, would object to making the bureaucracy better. You and I remember in the 80s, there were all the talk about the $900 toilets and the
Right.
$500 hammers at the Department of Defense. All of that is something that you should look at and remove waste, but not the way he's been doing it. And this
Mhm.
talk of going from a a chainsaw to a scalpel, that's not happening, and that's why it's so frustrating and really, really problematic. Stefan
Yeah,
says,
he
Miss
is,
you,
he
Liza,
is.
great to see you.
Oh, hi, Stefan. No, he just uses words. He says things and as if they're true. And the internet, unfortunately, the bad side of the internet is that it gets spread, and people don't check the truth, check the facts. They just assume that what Trump says is true, and more often than not, it's not.
And Musk is doing that as well. And Musk has this megaphone. AI will soon be smarter than humans. Let's discuss. Kevin Roos is a great tech writer, so I definitely want to read this. Arguments for taking progress towards this landmark more seriously. And Sunday Styles cover is Graydon Carter looks back. An editor from the heyday of glossy magazines dishes on Anna Wintour and recounts his long-running feud with Donald Trump. And he was the editor of Vanity Fair, and his new book is all about his life in the magazine business. And so I look forward to reading this. The book was called When the Going Was Good, and when magazines were, of course, super successful at that time. Any thoughts about Vanity Fair versus the New Yorker?
Well, yeah, I remember those days in the 80s. It was a very important magazine, Vanity Fair. And Tina Brown came from Vanity Fair. I believe she was the editor there and moved over to the New Yorker, and everybody was frightened that the New Yorker would become Vanity Fair. There's a bit of a rivalry between the two magazines, although not anymore. They have different audiences, a different purpose. And they did back then too, but everybody was afraid that the New Yorker was going to become like this place for only fashion and celebrities.
Yeah,
I don't want to downplay Vanity Fair, but that's what it was.
I think they both have done relatively well in the media world when you look. So I'm just going to put you on the spot here. We have the social cues column, and Philip Gallanz writes about various things, answering questions about various things. So here's the question. It's a commuter thing. I live in Portland, Maine, but I work in Boston. When I tell people about my job, they say, what a terrible commute. But I don't mind the 2-hour bus ride. I get a lot of work done on the bus, and I enjoy biking from the bus to my house and back. Still, these comments annoy me. How can I make them stop? So no right or wrong answer. What is your take on this?
Well, I work on the train a lot, so I agree with him. I don't like buses so much, but I can see how that might be nice, and it's a beautiful drive if you've ever done it from Maine to Boston. So that's my take.
So here's Philip's answer, and again, there's no wrong answers. The only reason people know you have such a long commute is because you tell them. So if that line of conversation annoys you, stop telling them. You work at Boston Children's Hospital, for instance. Say that you work in healthcare and keep the location vague. Still, as small talk goes, your fresh take on commuting seems relatively interesting to me, but it's your call if you don't want to pursue it. So, so you and commuter have a unusual take on this, and let's just quickly look at the Sunday opinion section. The targeted destruction of free thought. Megan O'Rourke and what the White House campaign to dismantle higher education will mean for America. And David French on free speech in peril and how university leaders should defend their institutions. And we've seen Columbia especially come under attack this year. Saturday Night Live is the cover of the book review. And Saturday Night Live, Susan Morrison's monumental biography of Lorne Michaels, attests to his enduring role as America's impresario of funny. And he's done an amazing job for 50 years, as you can.
Susan Morrison's the New Yorker editor.
Though Susan Morrison's New Yorker editor who's done this. Okay, very cool. See, this is the context we get. Irish Stew Podcast asks, have you discussed the New York article from yesterday? But I think about the New York updating its grammar style. So this was making the round. So do you want to talk about this a little bit? Because you do, did away with anachronisms as website and inbox, but it was the staff felt were lasting changes. So they are embracing some I remember in the New Yorker, they used to put an umlaut for cooperation, re-examination, things like that. So talk about this a little
Interesting.
bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they're very careful about their grammar at the New Yorker. They always have been. Harold Ross, one of the founders, was a stickler for that. So it's just embedded in the New Yorker's ethos, and they use a lot of commas. There's a woman, Mary Norris, who wrote a book about working at the New Yorker. She's called the grammar queen. Sorry, the comma queen. I mean, because the New Yorker has a very specific take on how you use commas. Don't ask me to repeat what it is, but it's just been something that they're very careful about. And you have to pay attention. When I submit a cartoon and they want to buy it, they will be very respectful of my caption, and they'll write me and say, well, before we publish this, we'd really like to put a comma here. Is that okay with you? So, and I say, sure. I mean, you're the editors, so that's what editors are good for.
Yeah, so website will now be one word, inbox is one word, and internet will have lowercase. Cell phone would be one word rather than two. Welcome to 1995, you may be thinking. Mr. Boynton wrote in his announcement, providing an example of another new rule. Thoughts will be italicized in an effort to differentiate them from other texts. The keepers of the magazine house style have been purposely slow to make concessions. We don't want to make a change and then change it back. We want to make sure it's a lasting change and that is elsewhere in the world and that people are familiar and comfortable with. Potential changes were crowdsourced from a group of current and former editors at the suggestion of David Remnick, the longtime editor. And so he was tight-lipped about which ones were rejected. I don't want them to become, as you know, objects of fetishization in the outside world. So all of this shows the value of these kind of institutions and the New Yorker being an institution. Even this story about this book about Saturday Night Live in its 50th year talks about, you get a sense of these institutions in American life, and things that are familiar are going to count even more, Liza, with all the changes being forced upon the world out of Washington. So I think those are going to be even more important. And the New Yorker does love the parenthetical commas, right? Like you can use that here. Glad somebody's still concerned about grammar. Kids these days are not being taught at all, says Pradnya. And Jonathan says, long live the serial comma, which I don't know if everybody will agree. Salim Khan says, I'm a diehard. There is only one internet, so it's a proper noun that takes a capital, says Salim Khan. So here's somebody who's arguing with the New Yorker. And this is something I kind of agree with, because it's the internet. It's like, Earth, you put a cap on that. So that's what I would say. But I think cooperation doesn't need an umlaut. I hope they remove the umlaut on cooperation. Geraldine Brooks is a New York Times writer who's retreats to an island hoping to pick up the pieces after the death of Tony Horwitz, her husband, and they were both Columbia Journalism School grads. Danish Modern, a Brooklyn journalist, falls under the sway of a Svengali in this novel about male self-delusion. What are you reading these days?
A couple of things. My daughter recommended Pachenko, a novel about Korea, and it's good. It's what else am I reading? I'm listening to a book about freedom by another Substacker. His name escapes me at the moment. He wrote a book about tyranny as well. He's a historian, but I can't remember his name. Sorry. Yeah, I've always got a couple books going. That's what I have going right now.
Good. And are you a Kindle person or physical?
No, not really. I'd rather have a hard copy. I do occasionally read on Kindle, but yeah, I'd rather have the book in my hand.
Paula says, people who work for places that use AP style like me learn pretty quickly not to be too precious about the Oxford comma. The series Pachinko is excellent, says Naomi.
That's what I hear. I'm looking
at Laura suggesting maybe the book is by Timothy Snyder, tyranny book writer.
Right. So, you should follow him on Substack. He's really interesting. Also,
good.
I recommend following Heather Cox Richardson, who is also another historian who talks about what's going on in the news now and relates it to history. fascinating. I'm going to be doing a book with her soon. Sree.
It's amazing how many projects you have going on. That's really great. Brian Tyree Henry takes the lead. The actor has spent his career in scene-stealing side roles. In Dope Thief, he's finally front and center. Let's see, theater. What have you seen lately on Broadway or?
I haven't. I don't go often. It's
okay.
I'd like to. It's just
okay. I saw Redwood, which is Idina Menzel, and it's fabulous.
Oh,
fabulous show. Yeah. Let's see what else. He uses his voice to bring Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, and others to life. So this must be someone who succeeded Mel Blanc as the voice of these signature folks from history here, from cartooning history. Tell me about animation versus still drawings. What are your thoughts on that?
They're like two different animals, same family, but yeah, animation. I have done some animation on my iPad, simple stuff with my simple drawings, but and I visited Disney Studios. I met one of the directors, and he gave me a tour. That was fascinating. And I've been to DreamWorks too. I did a workshop for them. They bring outside artists in to talk to their artists in-house. That was fascinating and really fun. The animators there were just so interested in what I do, and I'm interested in what they do. And we spent the day together talking about two different worlds. That was really fun.
So this guy's name is Eric Bauza. He's the new Mel Blanc, and he also likes drawing, so he drew that himself. So
okay, I'll look at that.
Yes, his name is Eric Bauza. So for those of us who follow, animated cartoons, that's a name that will be out there. Real estate section, her halls of history. A movie producer grew up with pioneering Black entertainers at our table, and her heroic figures on the wall. In her own house, she makes a place for them. So this is that. And then the last section we'll look at before we bring back, finish our conversation is the Metropolitan section. By the way, Ellen says Heather Cox Richardson is the best definite daily read. So great. Your recommendations are resonating with folks. And piecing the city back together, the COVID pandemic hit New York hard, killing thousands and paralyzing the economy. 5 years later, the city has rebounded, but also changed in painful ways. 6 people who stepped up to help their neighbors in the darkest times. And his parties are creative circles. Alexander Small's Harlem apartment is the setting for building community through food and music. And we just want to remind everyone that if you go to digimentors.group, you can get this, you can download a PDF of this special section. It's called How COVID Haunts Us. 5 years later, the world has moved on. The sorrow is still lurking, is the headline here. And in New York, vestiges of 2020 fade underfoot. The pandemic's unspeakable pain is buzzing just below the surface. And Liza, one of the points that some observers have made is that it's the pandemic that helped unleash people like Musk and others because of the misinformation, confusion, and other things that happened during the pandemic. And so that's what we are seeing right now is what people are
fascinating.
saying.
I haven't really thought about that link.
Yeah, Elon Musk said famously that the pandemic would be over by April when it started in March, and he said less than 1,000 people would die. And Kara Swisher, who has written and covered him for 30 years, says that that's when she saw him go off the rails, because it affected directly his business and everything else. And so he's been punishing us after that. So that's really problematic. Folks, this is our conversation with Liza Donnelly. And this is the New York Times Read Along. We're going to talk for a couple more minutes, and then we're going to, at 10 a.m., say goodbye to Liza and celebrate the life of our friend Steve Taylor, who passed away at the age of 55. The special New York Times edition on COVID section is available right now. If you go to, it's as a PDF at digimentors.group. Look for Liza's face and click on there, and you'll find the section. You can download it. It's something that is not easily available online, so you have the PDF, so you can read that when you get a chance. Liza, just want to get your kind of final thoughts. Talk about the exhibition, please, and talk about the film, and then we'll let you go.
This is really fun to do with you, Sree. I've always enjoyed it. So the exhibition is at the Society of Illustrators, which is 63rd and Lexington Avenue in New York. It's a wonderful museum of illustration and cartoons, and it celebrates the art of the New Yorker in this centennial year. The New Yorker turns 100 this year, and that'll be up until May. And my documentary that I'm producing and directing with another director is called Women Laughing. There's a website called womenlaughingfilm.com where you can learn more about it, and follow us on Instagram as well, Women Laughing Film. And we're still looking for donations and help to get the film finished. It should be finished in June or July. It's a short, a really look at women cartoonists at the New Yorker. And I think that's it, Sree. Follow me on Substack.
Yes, everyone, please check her out on Substack. Her Substack is free, but you can donate and support so that she can do a monthly Zoom call that she offers, as well as the chance to comment on her great work. So everyone who can afford it should definitely make a contribution and subscribe. Anyway, the subscription is free, so everyone please do that. And check out womenlaughingfilm.com, and we'll hopefully have you back when you're promoting that film.
Oh, I'd love to. Yeah,
next year.
Yeah.
And then if you're in New York till before May 3rd, or you can get to New York before May 3rd, or you have friends coming to New York, check out the Centennial Celebration of Cartoons that she has curated at the Society of Illustrators, and it is the centennial of the New Yorker magazine. And one of the things I'd like to do is to reach out to one of the editors there and do a centennial read-along of the New Yorker, which I think would be fun to flip through this
That's
issue
a great idea.
with them, and I think that'd be really, really cool. So with that, Liza, thank you very much for your time, and we want to wish you the very best. Delightful show, says Jonathan, and very New York. Thank you. And Pradnya says, if I wasn't already a Liza fangirl.
Oh,
so,
thank you, Pradnya.
That's so great. Liza, you gave a very good preview of your exhibition, History of Cartoon and the Film. So
thank you.
That's wonderful. Really big shoe. Thanks for appearing, Liza. And we are so grateful to everybody for being here. Debbie says this was a great chat. So with that, Liza, we'll let you go. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sree. Thank you so much. Thanks to Neil and everybody there.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, Liza. It was great to have you.
Anytime.
And folks, we are now going to switch gears and pay tribute to our dear friend Steve Taylor, who passed away this past week. He was just 55, and someone who just inspired so much love, and so many folks have been paying tribute to him. And so I want to hand this over to Neil, who with our friend Paula has been in touch with Steve and the family. Steve passed away just at the age of 55 of a heart attack, and we're still recovering from it. We are very grateful to his parents for being on the previous show, and they're watching now as well. And it means a lot to us. We're sending you our strength and love, and we know how difficult this must be for you, and we're very grateful. And I want to say to Steve, wherever he is, that it was an honor to know you, an honor to be inspired by your love of bicycling. That's the last photograph we took together in November 2023. Steve is on the upper right. You can see him in the back above our friend Jennifer. And he worked on and off with us at Digimentors, including producing some amazing shows with the Hong Kong University, including concerts and things like that. And anytime I had a question about music and how and the technology around music. He was my go-to person, and he is just a real inspiration for all of us. Thank you, Steve, for the light you brought into our lives and to so many of us. Patricia sends a heart and a prayer, and Dr. Tachi says, rest well to Steve. Over to you, Neil, and thank you for everything you've done to bring us together around Steve.
Thank you, Sree, and you put it really well. Steve was just such an incredible spirit, and so much joy to be around. He was a close friend of ours, a close colleague for the first 2 years of the pandemic. When we were producing shows, he was my right-hand man. He was with me producing several shows. He was a producer on the New York Times read-along. Folks will remember him from that, mostly working on LinkedIn. And he was just a great friend. I mentioned Laura Silverman earlier, who was watching. That's when I first met Steve, when we did a live show from Philadelphia at Laura's house. Steve showed up because he lived in Philadelphia, and without a moment's notice, I asked him at the last minute whether he would help produce the show, if he would help dropping links in to the chat in Facebook, and he didn't hesitate at all. This was a birthday note I left for him back in 2021. So what we want to do is we want to bring on a few of our colleagues, Paula Tiger and Stephen Kaplan, to share their thoughts about Steve. I just want to give a quick shout out. First, Gabriel is watching. Gabriel is a friend of Steve's. We talked earlier about how people connect on Facebook. When you mention someone, their friends see the post and you can comment. That's how we heard the news. Paula actually saw the news first and texted me Tuesday morning. So Gabriel, thank you for joining us. He's here for the Friend of Steve Taylor piece. That's the FOST. Laura says, my first time meeting Steve in person as well. She was talking about the read-along we did from her house. An extraordinary, one-of-a-kind person with the biggest heart. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Let's go ahead and have Paula and Stefan join us. There's Paula, longtime producer of the New York Times read-along. Paula, thank you so much for joining us. And then we also have Stephen Kaplan, who just got back. You're in the Uber now. Are you in the Uber? Stephen, you're going to the airport, from the airport?
I'm going to the airport. I'm going to Atlanta this morning, or this afternoon.
Flying to Atlanta. I didn't realize that you were going out today, so thank you for joining us.
No, I wouldn't. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
How long of a trip do you have? How long do we have you for, Stefan?
Oh, I'm in the car for 45 minutes, so no problem.
Good. We plan to go half hour at most. If I know Sree had to run, he was here for the first part of this tribute. If he gets a chance to come back in, we'll bring him back on. But first, I'll throw it to you, Paula. You actually shared the text with me Tuesday morning. I had just gotten back from Selma, Alabama. I was there for the John Lewis Foundation, and I had taken these pics that Stefan saw online. I was at the very front. Our CEO was in the very front. It was an incredible moment. And one thing that's not lost on me, and I did talk about this with Steve's parents, that Steve actually passed away 2 weeks ago yesterday, on that Saturday. And they tried to text me when it first happened. And Eileen said that she showed me the text. She mistyped the number. So I didn't hear about it right away. And it's always very interesting and something I'm really thinking about, because I would have heard about it before going to Selma, and it would have been on my mind. It would have impacted the trip. Instead, I had the trip. I came back Monday night, full of energy with all sorts of plans for Tuesday. And I woke up Tuesday morning to your text. The thinking is that, God works in only ways that he understands. I was meant to hear the news after I was done with that trip and after I was in a place to be able to deal with it. Can you talk a little bit about how you found out, what post you saw, etc.?
Yeah, it's great to be with both of you and with the whole read-along community. I hate that it's under these circumstances, but it's important to grieve together and to celebrate together. So I appreciate having this time. And I will answer your question, Neil, but first of all, to Eileen and Patrick, I can't express how much you've been in my thoughts, and I know all of us. And we're all thinking of Layla too, the cat. So just wanted to share that. I don't remember who posted the post I saw, but I was just randomly on a quick break from a heavy deadline day scrolling through Facebook, and I saw that Steve had been tagged, and I saw that it was something many of us who are now mid-age see among our group, that it was a past tense. So I did not at the time go through and fact check, and I immediately texted Neil, which I hated to do, Neil, but I also, that's how we work together.
Yeah.
We go ahead and get the information shared and then figure it all out. So that's, then we did a little more fact checking, and unfortunately we're able to verify that it was true. And I think I just keep thinking, how did the universe just keep going with him having, how did we not feel that? And I know that sounds kind of woo-woo, but it's what keeps going through my head. Even though I know most of us, it had been a year, I've figured out, since I talked to him in depth. But still, just the universe is dimmer without him, I guess, is the only, I've been searching for words, as I've said in every single post I made about this since it happened, but that's what I come back to. It's just, we've lost a life.
We have Ron Thomas says he met Steve through Facebook. Patricia remembers him sharing links during the show. That's kind of how a lot of this work started. I started working with Sree years ago on the read along, just as a viewer, but I was kind of interested in what he was doing, so I was dropping in links to articles he was talking about, and then Paula started doing that when I was hosting. Steve jumped into when we expanded to LinkedIn. Steve would cover LinkedIn, Paula would cover Facebook, but it was so much more than that, and he was part of our team. He was loved by so many. Seeing the posts on Facebook from friends of his from high school, friends of his from his biking community. I mean, the three things Steve was known for: his biking, his food, and his cat, right? And Catterday post that he put up. I want to give say hello to Patrick Kelly, who's watching from Sao Paulo, Brazil. And Patrick has a long post. I want to see whether we can. We're still visible. That's good. I'm going to see if I can change the layout just a little bit. Patrick says, I've known Steve since our freshman year at Georgetown University. We rode crew together the first year and both rode out after it became far too serious. I counted him among my closest friends at university. Unfortunately, I lost touch with Steve over the years after I moved to Europe and now South America, but I would like to reach out to his parents, Patrick and Eileen, and send them my warmest condolences. Absolutely. And as I mentioned earlier, I had the chance to speak with his parents and do a tribute to him on our Thursday show, which was incredibly meaningful. Erin Kay, who is another friend of Steve's that I've become friends with on Facebook, a very close friend, says Steve was easy to be fast friends with, super friendly, likable, and tech savvy. I think that's as good a, I don't want to call it an epitaph, but as good a quick description as possible for Steve. Stefan, I want to bring you in to the conversation. you had the chance to see Steve a few more times in person than I did. I saw him at our retreat, and I saw him at this event in New York we did. But I think you told me when we talked on the phone that he used to bring over Layla bars to you from the food bars that he was working on.
Yeah, he did. Can you hear me fine? I just want to make sure.
Yeah, we can
hear me fine. Okay, good. Okay, no problem. Since I'm in transit, I wanted to make sure. No, Steve was. I'm going to just start from the beginning. Steve was a beautiful human being. He was a gem of a human being, and I don't say that about everybody. He was the ultimate in kindness. He used to come through Ramsey every now and then, and he was working on creating his own health bars, Layla bars, as he called them, because of his cat, Layla. As we all know, he loved cats, and especially that cat. And he would stop by in Ramsey, and we'd sit down somewhere for an hour, go take a walk, whatever, in one of the nature preserves or this and that, and bring me some of the Layla bars. And I got to tell you, they were really, really good. But he was always sweet, always sharing, always caring. Tech aficionado, as you said, amazing guy with tech. We could talk, like you said in one of your posts, or on something I remember, that, we could talk with him for hours about cameras, about gadgets, about this. I used to call him Inspector Gadget. But the main thing, about all this is that, of course, it was a shock to all of us. It's the third shock I've had in a row in the past 3 years. But Steve was unexpected. And, he was always in shape, always taking care of himself. And that's why it was even more of a shock, I guess. That's the first thing that came to my head, was that, even when we did a live stream once, I remember during the pandemic, all of us, I have a screen grab, and unfortunately his head is cut off, but you see his chin, and he was riding his indoor bike during this live stream. The guy was always doing something. He was amazing. He was a bundle of energy, and he's going to be missed. He's one of those beautiful human beings that you get to meet. And I'll say this early before I forget. If you haven't talked to somebody in a while, if you haven't seen them in a while, I don't care what it is, pick up the damn phone and call them and say something. I feel actually a little bad about this, because I had meant to get together with Steve in the past 6 months, and just life and things just put it off, and voila, So Sree always said this many, many times over the pandemic, and many over other things that we've dealt with in life as a group and as friends. Don't wait. Call somebody, connect with them, even a text, anything, and stuff. And we had been texting a little bit. I would love to have seen him again in person. That photo right there was when he brought me some Layla bars one day. And, it's just a shame and a shock. But you know what? As long as he's at peace, and as long as, like you said in one of your posts, we know Steve's in heaven. He was a gem. He was a gem.
This is a picture that I'm guessing you took, Steve, or unless he posted it himself.
No, I'm sorry. So I took a few of my favorite photographs that I saw from his Instagram, and I shared it. This was taken by some other friend of his, but I picked it because that would have been Steve, on his bike or taking pictures of nature. But actually, that brings back a great memory when we were all at the retreat up in Pennsylvania together, our Digimentors retreat, and we were sitting around for a few days. Steve and I took several walks, and I'm surprised we didn't take pictures of each other that way, or of selfies or whatever. But you know what? Sometimes it's just better, as I've learned as I've gotten older now, to just, even be Mr. Shutterbug, to just be in the moment and be with friends. Those are things that nothing can erase from your memory.
I'll say this is a picture Paula shared from that retreat with the dinner. We were all at different tables, and this was part of the group. That's Steve in the bottom right corner. Paula is just behind him in the red. I will say on that point, Stefan, the picture that I shared, this is the picture that Sree took and shared at the dinner we did in November of 2023. This is the picture that I took with him at this AI workshop we did in New York. This is the last time I saw him in person, and for me, I was seeing people in person that I usually see just online. So I did run around and take selfies with as many people as possible before they left. And after this workshop, I drove Steve to he had some cousins in Briarcliff, about a 40-minute drive away. We talked for the whole time. We talked for another 40 minutes in the car as when we pulled up, and that's the first time that I had kind of broached the idea of this show called Shining Light on Shadows, a candid conversation about mental health. Stefan has been a guest on that show. Our most recent show was with Pradnya Haldapur, who's watching managing mental health while still being effective at work. But we did take time to do a tribute to Steve during that show as well. And it was very meaningful for me because Steve was going to be a guest on the show. He wanted he shared about his own challenges with bipolar depression, and we had long talks about it. It was something that he was, struggling with and he was working on. But at the end, it was just all the struggles he had, all the challenges, just took too much of a toll on his body. The medical examiner had ruled it. He collapsed at the foot of the stairs. And it's just incredible to think about. It really, particularly seeing the other posts, he was just so much of. He filled filled the room so much with his spirit. Whether he was talking about food or tech, he helped me buy my laptop in like I had to buy a new laptop in like a day, and he spent a couple hours with me going over different models and specs.
Well, the other thing you mentioned with him about food was that I always meant to do that, and that's why I say, get in touch with people, do things, live in the present with people, and do things because life is short. You never know when your number's up, unfortunately. And the thing is that he had an amazing love of food and many other things, and he used to go to all these restaurants and post about them and all the different types of food and post about them. And I'd be salivating at all of his Instagram posts, but he also, it was a joy to be around him. I was around him in person, number of times, but also at conferences, at retreats, and other things. And he was always a part of something when he was around. He wasn't like me. He wasn't the type of guy to sit in a corner. He was always mixing and mingling, and had an incredible gift of conversation. It's going to be with us for a while, like all good friends who pass are. And grief is difficult. I haven't reached out to his parents yet because I've sort of run out of words lately with so many things, because I've lost several friends, as I mentioned, and it's been one after the other, all very close to me. And you run out, like Paula said this, I think you run out of words after a while. It's kind of like you get a little numb. But I want to extend right now my condolences to his parents, and just say that I hope to even meet you one day. If you're ever passing through Ramsey, New Jersey, please let me know. I'd love to have lunch or coffee with you both one day, or one of you, whoever's around, if you're passing through, or even in Manhattan. I'm always in Manhattan. Let me know. I would love to meet you, give you a big warm hug, and just let you know that your son's spirit meant a lot, and your son's being meant a lot to this world and to all of us who have met him and been around him.
And Eileen is hearing you, Stefan. She had posted, "Thank you so much. A beautiful tribute and a wonderful reminder to keep in touch." with
Yeah.
friends.
Because I'm just going to say, my friend Gary, who just passed away, his sister Deborah, who is, I had never met Deborah, but I had known a lot about her and everything. Now I plan on keeping in touch with her, making sure she's all right. You know, just because somebody passes away doesn't mean that you shouldn't extend your friendship and your being with others that were close to them, especially their family, if that's the case and that's what works for you. For me, that works for me because I think it's important in doing that for people.
I want to bring in a few other comments from folks who are watching. Laura says, because we live in the same city, I assumed I'd always have a chance to get together with him again. And we did connect once or twice, but not recently. Such a cliche, as Stefan was saying, if someone is on your mind, reach out now. My mom says Steve is missed. He also presented interesting recipes. When we did the read along at that retreat, his article, his choice was the top 10 easy recipes to share. It's so great to have that clip that we can look back on. Gabriel writes, I met Steve in DC when he was still working at Science Magazine and moonlighting as a bike courier. I didn't know he moonlighted as a bike courier. He introduced me to web design, which I took to like a fish to water as it was just breaking out. He changed my career at that point. Gabriel, thank you so much for joining. And you know, this is one of those things. It was appropriate to do this tribute to Steve as part of the read along, something that he was part of our read along family, one of our producers, one of our Digimentors colleagues. But it's great to be able to have other friends and other colleagues join us and comment. Tim Sohn, a close friend of Stefan's, also a friend of Steve's. I first met Steve at a Sree social media weekend. That's how I met Stefan too. He came to Honesdale, Pennsylvania for the Sree Pennsylvania event, Sree PA. He also came to Callicoon, New York, and we had coffee. He had such great energy and kindness and a passion for so many things. Deborah Bernick, always sharing, always caring. What a fine tribute to a real mensch. Absolutely. If anyone was a mensch, definitely Steve was. I want to just check in with Erin because she had shared this comment. I think she was referring to this picture. Is Erin, just to confirm, did you take this picture at Nakamixon? I'm guessing the pronunciation. Just confirming on that. You know, Laura says so many sides to Steve. His social handle, Steve Derive, referred to a French literary movement, the Situationists. I never got the explanation for what that was, Laura. So thank you for that. I'm sure there's probably a better pronunciation.
Jonathan reminded me of that.
Right, did he?
Jonathan reminded me of that this week. He said, don't forget about the Derive.
And Laura, so yes, bikes, tech, photography, cats, Layla bars, cooking, gardening, and literature. Much more, I'm sure I didn't even get to know. And of course, friends. Patrick is asking, Patrick and Eileen, please reach out to me at Gmail, pkellyuk@gmail.com. Carla is another friend of Steve's from his page that is posted. And he used his love of food to really advocate and help small businesses. Absolutely. He, you know, one of the things in terms of, you know, his giving nature, I want to remember the name of the nonprofit, and I'm sure that someone will put it in the comments. I'm sorry, Eileen, I can't remember the name offhand. You gave me the nonprofit that Steve supported, but I remember I asked him to help me produce a show for a former teacher who passed away, and we were doing it, you know, out of, you know, just pro bono. I couldn't pay him, but he said, pay out. I wanted to pay him something. He said, make a donation to this organization, and he definitely kind of just was so giving. Ellen says, what beautiful memories from you all. I only knew of him online, but will take seriously that admonition to keep in touch. Life is short. something I was reminded of a month ago. Ellen, sorry about your loss as well. I'm so sorry about that.
No, that's something else that he was so big on, and it should be mentioned because he was such an advocate and supporter of small businesses. I mean, all over the place. And the other thing is, we can't forget also, I was reminded by this by reading so many tributes to him. He did a lot of work with the Pennsylvania Parks Department.
The Parks Alliance, yeah.
With the Parks Alliance and everything. You know, he was always active, always doing something. He was an amazing soul that way. You know, amazing.
Paula, just wanted to ask you, we talked about the Digimentors retreat. That was, you live in Florida, so that was the first time you had gotten to meet a lot of our colleagues in person. And I presume that's probably the only time you would have met Steve in person, correct?
That's correct. And I keep thinking about how easy he was to talk to. And you think it's just you that you just have, and I know we did have a special bond, but reading over all the comments on the obituary that was posted, so many people felt that way. And what a gift he has. I like to listen and he liked to talk. So it was the perfect combination. But yes, by the time we got to physically meet in person, it was just icing on the cake. And there's a reason I'm seated next to him at that dinner. It's probably because I'm monopolized. I probably made it happen because I just craved spending time with him as a friend. And I knew that it was unlikely we would have many opportunities to be together in person. So it really was such a special part of that retreat experience, being able to spend time with Steve.
And you and I actually had a special, I mean, we have a special relationship, Paula, from all the years working together on the read along and the support you've given me personally. But we also connected very much in our relationship with Steve. We would, talk to each other. When one of us heard from him, we would update the other. And if I heard from him, I would let you know. That I think was something that was very special, and it's something I actually value greatly, because when I think about having friends and having just one point of contact with them and not having other mutual friends, not having other people who were involved, this is the kind of things that happens where you don't hear about something or you don't know what might be going on.
Right.
But having you as part of that kind of triangle with Steve was really really meaningful.
I agree, and I think at some point in one of our conversations as part of that triangle, I shared this quote with you, but it's something that makes me think of Steve. I think we're also grateful for how warm and kind he was with us. I hate that he had whatever internal struggles he had, and that we couldn't fix it or fix those. But it's a 13th century Persian poet named Hafez. And the quote is, "I wish I could show you when you are lonely or in darkness, the astonishing light of your own being." And if there's anything I could have given Steve, I wish it had been that.
A few other comments that have come in. My mom wants to extend her heartfelt condolences to Steve's parents as well. Carla, one of Steve's friends, says this is great. He edited Len Bracken books in the early 2000s, and it changed my work plans too. So there are two people now who've shared that Steve's influence changed the trajectory of at least their work life. He certainly impacted many people on a personal level as well. He also so there's a continuation of the Len Bracken comment. Carla says that his friend has several published works related to Guy Debord. They had great talks back in the day. Jonathan mentioned Guy Debord would be a good place to start. I think that's in reference to a flaneur goes on a derive. There's a relationship between flânerie and certain elements of situationism. Jonathan is a former guest on our show, and he explained a flaneur is just someone who observes the world around them and shares their observations. Hopefully I'm getting that right, Jonathan. So it's interesting to see that connection between Flaneur and Derive, from Steve Derive. And Eileen reminds me, yes, it's the Sunday Love Project that Steve was a big supporter of. So we will probably work on making a donation to them and collect some donations. I hadn't talked with Sree yet, but this is what we're going to do, at least from Digimentors. We will make a contribution on our behalf to the Sunday Love Project for in Steve's name, because that's what meant the most to him. So thank you, Eileen, for reminding me of the name of that group. Patrick says Steve was a Renaissance man with a passion for life, a true friend to his friends, and an interest in all people. A brilliant conversationalist with a great heart. Couldn't say it better myself. Laura says my son studied French literature in college. He's also a cycling enthusiast and lives in Philadelphia. I always thought there'd be a chance to introduce him to Steve. That's what hurts when you think you have that chance. And Eileen says, Paula, from what you said earlier, beautiful comments. Thank you. Apollo, who's also from Philadelphia, who, if I am not mistaken, I think so. When we went to the retreat, I remember we picked up Apollo. Steve was not in the car because he was going elsewhere afterward. I think he drove himself there. But Apollo says Steve was a good man and open to talk with. I wish I had more time to develop a relationship with him. May his memory be a blessing. Absolutely. And Gabriel says, exactly, Carla, I was going to point out that earlier, but restrain myself. Len is saddened by our mutual loss of Steve, by messages we have shared since. He told me I would have introduced them. So the influences run thick as blood amongst us all. Patricia says, thank you to the New York Times Read Along for a beautiful tribute. May Steve's legacy continue to live on. And Dr. Tachi says, this is such a beautiful tribute. I will share that after our show on Thursday, and it was, just a quick thing, and I'll share just in terms of my experience with it. When I heard from Paula that Tuesday morning, that I went through the day, except for appointments which I couldn't cancel. I wasn't able to do much else on Tuesday or Wednesday, and we did a quick conversation that evening on Zoom with our Digimentors colleagues. It was just a quick internal chance to share a few thoughts. But it wasn't really until Thursday evening when we took a few minutes to talk about Steve that I felt some bit of closure, some bit of I could actually move on with other things. And that's why it was important to do something, again, as part of this show, a little bit more of an extended tribute, bringing in other people to comment, bringing folks like Stefan and Paula on screen, to have Sree's comments at the beginning. This is how I know to celebrate someone and to grieve, to do it together, to do it with people. My life is mostly online at this point. I mean, I spend a lot of time in meetings online. We actually have a hashtag internally, Get Neil Outside, because I don't get outside as often as I should. But this was how, at least I needed to work through this. And I can only hope that this helped others.
I think what you've been doing, with everything you've been doing, Neil, with shining light on shadows and everything, it's really important. And I'll say this in final because I'm arriving at my destination, so I'm going to say goodbye to everybody before I get on my flight. But get together with people one more time. Reach out to people. Don't. If you're feeling like you need to talk to somebody, pick up the phone, text somebody. There's no need to do things in isolation and be alone. And that's, social media gets a lot of knocks about a lot of things, and it has its good and its bad. But I'll say this, it's changed my life in many ways because I I'm the type of person when I meet somebody online, I'd say 50% meet a lot of everybody in person sooner or later. And I think that's really important. So I'm going to wish you all goodbye and a wonderful week and month ahead. But keep Steve's memory alive with anything else that people want to share about him. And Neil, it's been very kind and nice of you to have me on. And Paula, it's great to see you. And I saw Laura Silverman's name. She's a gem too. I'm going to reach out to you this week. Laura, I haven't been in touch, but I wish everybody well, and thank you for letting me share my thoughts and feelings about this.
Thanks for joining on the way to the airport, Stefan. I appreciate it. That's our friend Stefan Kaplan, who was a close friend of Steve's as well. And just want to thank him again for joining us. Paula, we'll wrap up shortly. I wanted to bring in Dawn Helmrich Newberg, who is my co-host for Shining a Light on Shadows. Said she didn't know Steve, but she wishes she did. This is a lovely tribute. Dawn, thank you for watching this morning. Dawn is also a former guest on the show several times. In fact, the first time that Sree asked me to guest host for him when we were just on Facebook, and oh my God, I was beside myself. Sree gave me his password for his Facebook account and said, go live, because I can't do it. Dawn was the first guest that I asked to join. So thank you, Dawn. Laura says, thank you for creating this opportunity to grieve in community and to celebrate Steve, his life, his impact. You're welcome, Laura. Laura, of course, you will always be a part of my Steve story since I met him in person at the first time at your house. Jonathan says, lovely tribute. Naomi says, good for you, Neil, for expressing heartfelt emotion. You may or may not have been able to tell that I really worked to hold it in, because I would have lost it completely. And not that that's a bad thing. I cried several times on Tuesday and Wednesday. It's just hard. It's just hard. I know that others feel this way too. Helen says, thank you, Neil and Paula, for a beautiful tribute. Patrick says, thank you. And I'm going to close. We've gone, there's no time limit on this, but I think this is as good a place to end as any. Eileen saying, thank you for all this beautiful tribute to Steve. We will be forever be grateful for your sharing. Thank you, Eileen, so much. And again, just the conversations that we've had, it's just meant so much to me, and to others. Steve Taylor, our close friend and colleague, passed away 2 weeks ago at the age of 55 from a heart attack, and it's still it's still hard to work through. My mom says this will help with the grieving process, and Carla, one of Steve's friends, says it's really hard. Giant air hug. Paula, any last thoughts?
I think the main through line I keep thinking of is that so many conversations come around to something Steve said or did, and he never did it for anything transactional. He did it because he did it. I think there's real value in us in a world that is increasingly, I'm not going to give you 15 minutes of my time. I'll send you my fee. I'll send you a quote for my time. His time was his gift and his expertise. And I think there's something for all of us to learn from that. And Steve, we miss you. We know you're here with us in spirit. And thank you, Neil, for organizing this.
Thank you, Paula. Apollo says, this was a beautiful tribute. May everyone have a blessed weekend ahead. Gabriel, one of Steve's friends, thanks, Neil. This is a wonderful derive, or maybe it's a derive. Not quite sure, since I don't speak French. But again, our friend Steve Taylor, 69 to 2025. And just know that I can only hope that he's watching. Someone made that comment that even though he couldn't make it on the show on the Shining Light on Shadows, that he is watching from heaven, and I believe that. I really do. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. If you have additional thoughts to share about Steve, please feel free to share them in the comments, share them on social media, reach out to people individually. I know several people have reached out to Steve's parents directly to share private thoughts. It doesn't have to be public like this. Whatever works for you, please go ahead and do that. Even share, take a moment, take a walk in the woods, wherever you need to be. Just share your thoughts and remembrances in whatever way works for you. I think that's the most important thing. Laura says au revoir. Steve, until next time. And Dr. Tachi says thank you, Neil and Paula, as well. I am going to keep coming back to Eileen's comment. Thank you all for this beautiful tribute. We will forever be grateful for your sharing. Thank you for joining us. Bye-bye.